Hey guys, welcome back. Today we are going to be talking about 2026, and in some ways in this video we're going to talk about predictions, do a little bit of free thinking of what I believe is going to happen next year and how it's going to radicalize a lot of people, and I'll explain why. But we're going to be looking at some studies, some surveys, some statistics, and that's kind of the reason why I feel the way I do about next year and what's going to come. So this video isn't going to be that crazy. It's going to be kind of more chill, laid back. So if you're not really interested in that, it's fine. You don't have to watch it. My next video, however, is going to be a little bit more, let's just say exciting. So if you're wanting something like that, you can come back for the next video. But just to start off this conversation today, we need to talk about Black Friday. So Black Friday just happened and it set a record-breaking number of sales in the United States. It was over $11 billion in sales. And about $747 million out of that $11 billion all came from buy now, pay later. The plans, the monthly payments, almost $1 billion just came straight out of those payment plans. But get this is where it gets a little even crazier. 95% of all spending on Black Friday came from financed options. So the majority of it came from people putting it on credit. And there's a lot of reasons why. Maybe somebody's building their credit. Maybe they have really good credit. But I don't think that's actually the main reason why most people were using financed options. It's because a lot of people just don't have money. A majority of Americans today do not have savings. They live paycheck to paycheck. So the only way they can afford to buy Black Friday gifts, deals, whatever, whether it's for Christmas or themselves, is they have to use a financed option. And you might be saying, Tom, what does this have to do with next year and with, well, let me get there, okay? So this was just Black Friday. This and Cyber Monday is it's the biggest weekend for spending in America usually every year. A lot of people are using those payment plans. And what have we seen this year? We've seen people use payment plans to buy fucking Chipotle bowls or burritos. It's getting crazy with the buy now, pay later because I don't know how the interest works on a lot of those. I can't imagine it's good because interest rates are getting crazy. But let's move on. There's also recently, towards the end of this year, there's been a surge in people who own homes refinancing their homes so they can hopefully get lower monthly payments because they can't afford their mortgage. It's a pretty big number. Now, it's not a majority, but it's big enough to where people are talking about it. And that recently just happened in the past 2 months. So not only do you have most people spending money on stuff for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, just with financed options, right? Or buy now, pay later. But now you have people who own things like a mortgage refinancing their homes because they can't afford their homes. And let's move on to the next one. This one's crazy. This is the reason why I'm actually making this video, to be honest, because this shit, when I saw this, I was like, there's no way this is real because it was a tweet. And then I had to look up the actual survey and study that was done, and it's real. So, breaking news. Only 12% of Gen Z graduates secure a job after graduation compared to 40% of earlier generations. Only 12% of Gen Z graduates get a job. That comes from the Kick Resume HR Statistics study that was done for 2025. And it's not just that. They talk about a lot of stuff from that report. And I'll talk about a few different things, but I'll talk about this real quick. So this was from last year, so 2024. So just go ahead and take these numbers and guesstimate how much more it probably is. So in 2024, 52% of college graduates were working jobs that don't require a higher education. So basically, they have degrees, they have jobs that don't require degrees. How many times on this channel have I told you guys, the majority of people I know who went to college and got degrees do not have jobs that required degrees? And these numbers I just said, that was based off last year. The 12% of Gen Z graduates that secured a job after graduation, that study came out from this year. So I'd imagine it's more than 52% now. And then out of the 52%, it's estimated 75% of those people will remain in those situations for a full decade after college. So not only more than half of people who get degrees don't get jobs that require those degrees, but 75% of those people will literally not have a job that requires their degree for a decade. And if you think these numbers are going to slow down or decrease, think again. And why is this so radicalizing? Because guys, do you see what I've been talking about? You see where I'm going with all this? You have the Black Friday shopping sets record number highs for sales for Black Friday. Literally all of it is financed. And almost 1 billion of it, right? Almost 1 billion out of the 11 billion is completely buy now, pay later. So not only is that financed, but most of the time it's financed with people who literally have no money. And some people would say, oh, well, maybe they got a good interest deal and maybe they got 0% or whatever. Like, I don't know. So yeah, sure. But that's not a majority of the people. Then you also have people who actually own things, like a mortgage, who actually have a house and they're refinancing because they can't make their monthly payments. And then now you have all these job statistics coming out this year talking about how like fucked up the job market is. Gen Z is getting absolutely destroyed. And a lot of people are saying, well, Tom, what does this have to do with radicalizing people? Let me cook. All right. I told you we're going through numbers because I'm trying to make a prediction here. Here's another number that came from this study. In 2025, 11% of employees reported that they personally lost their jobs due to AI. And another 10% said they knew someone who had lost their jobs to AI. Is that 21% overall? I mean, I don't know how reliable the 10% of people who knew. It's like, that's kind of like hearsay. It's like, oh, I know somebody who knew. But let's just focus on the 11% alone. That's crazy, dude. Crazy. 11% of employees lost their jobs because of AI. I couldn't find anything in the study that talked about H-1Bs replacing people's jobs. And I know I talk about H-1Bs a lot because it's actually pretty serious, but let's just focus on AI. From all the predictions of AI replacing people's jobs, taking people's jobs, almost all of them that I remember reading about, they didn't say this was going to start happening until the late 2026, early 2027. But yet in 2025, this year alone, 11% of people lost their jobs. That's a pretty big fucking number of people, especially if it's predicted to not even really take effect till next year. So you see where all of this is going. And there was another prediction that talked about, and this came out in August, that says theoretically we could see unemployment hit 18% in 2026 due to AI. 18% unemployment. With the way things are going, I can see. I get it. These are crazy numbers, man. And why is this so radicalizing? Because the biggest group that this affects is Gen Z and millennials, but mostly Gen Z. And why is this radicalizing? Because a lot of people in Gen Z are finally graduating college and they're entering adult life and they literally cannot compete. Especially younger men. They can't get girlfriends. They literally can't get jobs. They can't afford anything. And this is extremely radicalizing because do you think this shit just radicalizes the kids? Do you think this just radicalizes the young adults? This radicalizes their parents as well, especially like young mothers or like mothers in general that have good relationships with their sons. Fathers too, I'm sure, but like, I'll use my channel as an example. There are women who tell me all the time, they're mothers of Gen Z sons. They watch my channel. They're like, yeah, my sons watch this type of content and they watch my channel. Some of them follow me on Twitter and they'll interact with me on there. They'll talk about how they watch people like Nick. They're into all this same stuff. And it's mainly because of their sons. Because they have sons. Their sons get old enough to enter the dating scene, to enter in the workforce. They graduate college. They enter college. They're going into all these different parts of life where they should be competing to some degree. They should be getting into a relationship. They should be doing all these things and they literally can't compete. They can't do it. And all these young mothers, what I've noticed over like the past like 2 years of kind of paying attention is they've been getting radicalized because they start paying attention to, well, why is dating so fucked? They look into it and they're like, oh, feminism is like destroying people and it's basically making women undateable. And then also with what's going on with the job market and with money in general, men cannot compete because it turns out a lot of women date certain men based off what they do for work, how much money they make. Hypergamy is a real thing. And now their sons are completely cut out. Like they can't even get a girlfriend, they can't get married, they can't start families, they can't even get jobs. And this is affecting women too with the jobs, but I'd imagine it's affecting men more. So this stuff, when it comes to parents in general, it radicalizes them, it red pills them. Because for a while it was, they would kind of see their son as being like left behind. Like, I don't understand. He hasn't ever dated before. He hasn't ever done this before. Like, what's going on? Is there something wrong with my son? And now I can assure you, it's like, no, there's nothing wrong with your son. It's literally, this is the society we are living in. It's a society that is essentially completely in opposition of young men. It's a society that demonizes them, and now it's also a society that literally cannot provide the basic entryways into adulthood to make something of yourself, to earn something. And if you think these numbers are radicalizing, a lot of people would say, well, what's the big deal? What's the big deal? The big deal, dude, is we're talking about jobs. We're talking about people earning a living, being able to have an opportunity to put food on the table. These numbers I talked about here, dude, this isn't including people who are abusing welfare. Maybe with the Black Friday numbers, you have certain things like that. But like with these job numbers, this is talking about people that are actually trying to work. Younger people that are actually trying to work. They can't. We've known this for years, but the reason why next year in 2026, it's going to radicalize so many people is because you're going to have AI come in like a fucking hammer. AI is going to fuck so many people up. It's not even funny. Like it's next year, that's when you're going to start seeing blood run through the streets with AI. Trust me. And then also I said we wouldn't talk about H-1Bs, but we have to talk about it. With H-1Bs, what is that doing? It's replacing a lot of people's jobs. What did we see when we talked about that before in this channel? 80% of those jobs are for entry-level positions. And even for senior-level positions, for the H-1Bs, where they're talking about how these people are going to come over and train us because we're so retarded and we don't know how to work a computer or whatever fucking example they're using. Oh, they don't know how to build missiles, or it's complete bullshit. Because now we have a growing number of actual whistleblowers in a lot of these tech industry companies and all these different things talking about how the H-1Bs, these fucking Indians or whatever, they don't even fucking know how to do the basic work that's required for their job. They don't know how to train people. This idea that Indians are good with computers is bullshit. They might be better at computers than like a fucking boomer, but like than an average Gen Z kid, it's probably the same level. At least a kid who's going to college to learn how to get a job, an entry-level job in the tech industry, they probably know more than the Indian, like definitely. But the reason why they're hiring them is because it is a way to pay people less. And some people come out and they say, well, the H-1Bs, they get paid just as much, which isn't true. But let's say it was. It's also a way for companies to lock in employees, because one of the biggest ways people in America get pay raises is they don't actually stay in the same company. They job hop. They go to the competition, because the competition, if they get a job there, they'll get a higher pay bump than if they just stay at their current company, which is something I've known about for years. I've known people that's what they do. They stay somewhere for like 2 years and then they leave. Because if they only get the promotions or the raises at their company, it's like between 4 to like 8%. But if they leave and go to a different company, they get like 10% raises, a 10% pay bump on average. That's why they do it. Because I mean, it's only 2%, but that extra 2% goes a long way, dude. Especially with what's going on with inflation and with prices going up, with all these tariffs. And we'll have to talk about tariffs in a minute, but we're getting fucked on a lot of different angles, man. And people can't afford groceries. Prices are going up, and the crazy thing is prices are going up slowly because a lot of companies are eating the cost, so it's not actually passing on to the consumer as much as people think it is. But the problem being is that wages are not increasing. So even though it's slowing down, the prices and the increases, they already went up so high to where people couldn't afford them, and the raises didn't go up with it. So of course you're going to have people job hopping. Of course you're going to have people doing that. But the difference with H-1Bs, they can't do that. When you get approved and when you get a job at a company with an H-1B visa, you can't fucking leave. So even if, let's say hypothetically, these people are getting paid as much, which they're not, but let's say they were, they can't job hop. So even if they were getting raises, they're basically still just getting fucked even more than you, because at least you can leave. You have the power to walk away and get a better job. They don't. So even from this weird perspective of, oh, well, think about them and what's best for them, fuck them. First of all, we shouldn't be doing any of this, because we're finding out more and more that these people aren't actually experts. They don't actually know how to train us. That's a fucking lie. And some of them basically don't even know how to communicate properly or even speak basic English, which, according to all these studies too, what's the biggest cause of stress in almost every job? It's a lack of communication. And now you're bringing in people who can't even speak basic English? Like that's gonna fix things or make things better? Get the fuck out of here, dude. Such bullshit. And in a lot of ways, it's really just people coming from India and just kind of sucking the life essence out of our economy. You know, these people don't care if our country succeeds, if our economy does well. They're here to take our resources, take our shit, and then for most of them, go back home. That's exactly what's happening. And we'll have to do a separate video talking about that specifically, because that's a whole other subject, but that is something that's currently going on. And it's not just with India, it's a lot of countries. They're coming here just to take our resources and fuck up our country and then walk away. That's like the goal. But talking about the tariffs, what's going on with the tariffs are completely skull-fucking businesses, smaller businesses, not the big industries, not people like Amazon, not the monopolies, but the mom and pop shops, the people that have their own businesses, the people that can barely afford 1 or 2 employees. Those are the people getting completely fucked because they can't afford the prices of paying for certain materials because of the tariffs. It's literally eating them alive. And you will eventually see to where they just have to increase their prices tenfold to make up for all these losses because they can't afford to do it. I can't even imagine next year how many smaller businesses are going to go out just because they can't keep up. And with all this trade in general, it's crazy, dude. We are getting fucked on so many different levels. We have a housing market bubble. We have a educational bubble. We have a job bubble that's fixing the burst. We have a car bubble. Like, dude, how many cars are just completely overpriced? Used cars. And that's something people have been talking about for years. I remember hearing people talk about that back in like 2020. And it's getting worse. I had some car troubles recently, and so I'm having to look for a new car. And it's crazy. And thank God, I mean, my car's messed up now, but like, thank God I got my car when I did, because that was before all these prices started like increasing. So I got off easy, but the average car payment in America is like $750 or something like that. It's almost $800 a month. And that's not including insurance. And then I think for used cars, it's like almost $600. That's insane, dude. People can't even afford rent, and now they can't even afford their cars. Match that with full coverage, depending on your age and what you get approved for. Some people are going to be spending like at least $200, maybe even more for full coverage, because you need full coverage when you're making payments most of the time. Some people, they get better deals, but like the average like younger person, just think about it, dude. They're spending like almost $1,000 altogether for their fucking car each month, which is insane. And what's the answer to all these things that like the government is giving us? Is 50-year mortgages? Because we know the tariffs aren't work. The tariffs could work, but the way it's being implemented, dude, it's just not working, bro. It just isn't. Because it is a strategy that could benefit us, but it's just not. And what is the government doing? Trump's trying to do another stimulus check. Oh, we're going to send you guys a tariff check, $2,000 per household. How does that even work? How does that work if you live in a house with 6 roommates? None of them are related, but none of them can afford their own apartments, so they all live in a house together. Do you split that between all 6 of them, or does it just go to one person if it's just per household? Like, how does that even work? Or is it every person involved, the $2,000? Why are we even doing that? We have so much debt in this country. It's like $37 trillion or some shit. We can't afford to keep doing what we're doing. And then, dude, I keep hearing stuff about the Federal Reserve coming out. They're going to start printing even more money. And I don't mean just a little bit, like a fuckload. That's like something they're gearing up to do next year, because all these things that are happening, dude, they can't keep up. You have the small businesses that are going to get fucked. You have AI that's coming into play. You have younger Gen Z people who can't get jobs. You have all these theories of unemployment going to reach like 18% maybe next year. All these different things. And then now you have all these bubbles and you have all these tariffs. And what's the answer? Because this administration is doing such a fucking horrible job that they're losing favor with everybody. They want to just give you money to make you happy. That'll shut you up. Give them $2,000. Give them 50-year mortgages. That will give them more faith in us. And dude, the 50-year mortgages is the fucking dumbest shit of all time. Because think about a 30-year mortgage. How does that work? The way it's supposed to work is you're in your 20s, you're in your 30s, you get married, you start a family, you get a mortgage. That's the idea. And by the time you reach your 50s, maybe your 60s, it's paid off. You pay off your house. So by the time you retire, by the time you start gearing up to leave an inheritance behind for your family, you don't have debt. That's kind of the idea. That's the point. And we'll talk about retirement in a second, because that's a whole other thing. But with the 50-year mortgage, let's talk about this. The 50-year mortgage, what is it? You're in your 20s, which most people who are in their 20s aren't getting mortgages. It's older people. You get a 50-year mortgage, you're in your 30s. You don't pay that bitch off until you're 80. Do you know how many Americans die before they turn 80, dude? More than likely, you're going to be dead before you pay off your fucking house. And that's if you're in your 30s. There are people in their 40s getting mortgages. So how does that work? You're in your 90s and you still have fucking mortgage payments? What's going on here? The average American home with the 50-year mortgage, what you would pay on that just in interest alone is you would pay the full price of the house. And then I was seeing something talk about how just in interest alone, it's like another 2 times the amount of the house just off interest. Like you're essentially paying 3 times the amount of money that the house is worth on a 50-year mortgage. That's how fucking bad it is. It's crazy, dude. So the stimulus check for tariffs, the 50-year mortgages that they're trying to do, they're trying to help people get homes and give them money. It's like, bro, they're fucking up so bad. These are horrible ideas. The only thing a 50-year mortgage benefits is banks. It doesn't benefit people, dude. You don't own that house. You're loaning it from a bank for 50 years. That doesn't help people. And then let's talk about retirement. I said we'll bring up retirement. Like 3 years ago, there was a study that I read, and it talked about how the average Gen Z person, when they retire, when they're in their 60s and 70s, they're going to need about $6.5 million in the bank to retire comfortably. That's like you can buy your groceries. Maybe you can eat out once a week. Maybe once a year you can go on a vacation. That type of lifestyle. You need $6.5 million. That was 3 years ago. I can't even imagine what it is now. But let's talk about the 50-year mortgage. Now you're going to have people pay, like the average American home is like over $500,000. And based off a 50-year mortgage alone, just based off interest, those people to pay off that home, they're going to be spending at least $1 million just on interest. So you're expecting people to pay that and then have enough to retire? What the fuck is going on? And this is all radicalizing, but the reason why I talk about next year being like the catalyst that fucking makes people go nuts is because of AI, is because of H-1B visas. All these things coming into play, because this is going to completely destroy people's faith in the system. And people don't really have faith in the system at all. But now unemployment is going to reach a level you've never seen before. AI is going to take so many jobs. And when those jobs are gone, they're gone. Like that's the thing with AI. You're not getting jobs back, because these companies will fight tooth and nail to keep their H-1B visas, to keep their AI, because it only benefits them. When those jobs are gone, they're gone. And a lot of these jobs too, they're not going to go after younger people. They're going to go after older people as well. So Gen Xers, millennials, that are trying to work a career to retire, they're going to lose jobs too. And what does that mean? That means they're going to start competing with younger people more and more, which we've already seen that. So now there's going to be even less entry jobs for younger people to enter the workforce. So younger people are going to become more and more radicalized because they can't fucking compete. They can't enter the workforce. They can't enter the dating scene. They're getting completely fucked. And now they're going to have to compete with their dad for a job. So you have all these bubbles, you have all these problems. And then you also have, like, don't even get me started on trade. Just look at maritime trading, which is the shipping containers in the ocean. Just look at that alone. A lot of people don't really know that much about this, but America is completely getting absolutely skull fucked when it comes to maritime trade. The amount of like ships that America has, it's like 180 to 190 that are able to do trade, at least from American companies. Compared to like China, it's like 1,400. We're getting beaten by Japan with maritime trade. Like we're being completely dominated in all these different fields. We have all these bubbles, and next year is going to be the year where most people, the average Americans, start to notice these things. A lot of them have already been noticing some of them, but not all of it altogether. This isn't 2008. This isn't just the housing market crash that's going to fuck the stock market up. This is everything. And what about the job market as a whole? I think in September and in November this year, we had record high like job losses in American companies. I think in September, there was a number that talked about how we hadn't lost that many jobs in September since 2008. It's a bubble for literally everything, every industry, and you're going to have younger people become more radical. You're going to have older people become more radical, either because their kids can't get jobs or they lost their job. And I've been repeating myself over and over and over again. But let's talk about, I guess, one upside that could come from all this, which is not a lot, but it's the fact that next year are the midterms. And it's the fact that a big issue a lot of people are going to be these few things. It's going to be AI, it's going to be jobs, it's going to be immigration. Because a lot of people are kind of noticing that the H-1B visas, that shit's not working. Immigration that we've been doing, that shit's not working at all. People are not assimilating. We need to halt immigration. We need to put a complete stop to it. And these are going to be things people are calling for. So the only upside to all of this for next year is that people will become more radical, and that will cause more and more people to put pressure on politicians to take stances against AI, to take stances against what's going on with the economy, to take stances against immigration, H-1B visas, to take stances against Israel. You know, why are we sending all this money to Israel? Fuck them, dude. We need to focus on our own shit. Like at the very least, the most normie people are going to be talking like that next year. And when people get radicalized next year, no amount of boomers, Gen Xers, anybody is going to be able to say shit like, oh, well, you just can't get a job because you're lazy. There's going to be no Republican that can come out and say, oh, well, the economy's great. The job market is amazing. It's just like these people just don't want to work. That shit is not going to fly. That shit hasn't been flying, and next year it's gonna be completely dead. And that's the only upside, is that radicalization can be kind of used in a way to peer pressure politicians from all sides of the aisle, Democrats and Republicans, to disavow Israel, to disavow H-1Bs, to disavow AI. There should be regulations on AI. That's the only thing that's gonna prevent people from losing their jobs with AI is regulation. I'm sorry to all the libertarians watching this video that think the fucking free market and all this bullshit is gonna help people. All these Republicans, you're thinking, oh, well, the free market will decide. Dude, when it comes to AI, you cannot compete with AI. You can't compete with AI. So this idea, this belief that only the best people should get the jobs, not regarding AI. There has to be regulation, because you can take the world's fastest coder and pair them up against with Grok, with coding whatever, and what would take them like 3 hours, Grok can do within like 5 minutes. Now, of course, are there going to be typos? Are there going to be issues with the code? Yeah, but there's already issues like that with actual people. That's the biggest problems with coding, is people write their code and then they have to go through and optimize their shit because they get something wrong. That's what takes so long with optimization, is they have to have, in some cases, other people look at it to correct their mistakes. And with AI, all you're going to have is other AI look at the code and correct the other AI's mistakes. So the way it goes, dude, is with a lot of these jobs, it is based off working with computers, working with customer service, all these different things. You can't compete with AI. There's no free market solution that can deal with that issue. It has to be regulation. So there's going to be a call for people to regulate AI, because if they don't, dude, you're just going to lose jobs. Unemployment is going to skyrocket. And if you think I'm wrong, why do you think you keep seeing people like Elon Musk talk about how, well, in the future, AI is going to take all of our jobs and you won't have to work and everybody's just going to get free money? Why do you think he keeps saying shit like that? Because he understands people can't compete with AI. And forgive me for not trusting the plan and the fact that AI is going to be nice to us and not completely fuck us over. But a lot of people are going to lose their homes. They're going to lose their jobs. They're not going to be able to afford to feed their families because of AI. So there has to be regulation. So there's going to be a push for that. And that's kind of like the only upsides to all this, is that it's going to make people more vocal on these issues. And immigration is a big thing too, because you're going to start seeing people push more and more for remigration. You're going to start seeing that become more of a normalized talking point, which is good because that's what's needed, but it's bad because I don't like this accelerationist approach, because this isn't even an option at this point. It's literally just acceleration by default with what's going on. So you guys can understand where I'm going with all this. Why next year is going to be the catalyst to radicalize people, like everyday individuals. And the way that goes is it could either be a good thing or it can be fucking horrible. Only time will tell. But with the midterms coming next year, I don't even know. Because then you also have stuff with like immigration, with like deportations. We like it. We think it's amazing. But a lot of people get freaked out by that shit. Even people who voted for it. They'll see a video of some husband getting arrested in front of his family or whatever, and they'll start feeling bad for those people. And that's a problem, because more and more people are going to want less hardcore deportations because it makes them sad. And so now you're going to have politicians kind of lay back on that because they want to get elected, because they want to placate to people's feelings. And so there's going to be a huge clash between people who want deportations and people who want less of that, because feelings get involved and people are going to get upset and all these different things. But all in all, I've made my point. You guys see where I'm going with this. Next year is going to be fucking nuts. So if you're not prepared, I highly advise you start doing some type of preparation. If you have a certain job that is in the industry that's more than likely going to get replaced with AI, you need to research that stuff and you need to prepare mentally for that, because I'm not trying to say you're going to lose your job, but dude, I'm just trying to say it's like, look, if you have a family, if you have kids, if you have this stuff, you need to kind of start preparing, because a lot of people are not going to be ready for this. And this is going to start happening next year. So prepare, do your due diligence, do your research, look into these things, because the bubbles are going to start popping. And whether it happens next year or the year after, next year for sure is when the heat is going to start turning up and people are going to start becoming more and more angry. And that's not necessarily a good thing, because that can go a way that I don't think people are prepared for. But what do you guys think? Have you guys been paying attention to all this stuff? Do you have your own opinions on any of the things I've said? Let me know. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know below. And as always, guys, if you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification. Follow me on Rumble. Follow me on X. But thank you guys so much for the love and the support. It means so much to me. And I can't tell you guys how grateful I am for each and every one of you being here and listening to me talk about these things, whether it's just me rambling, ranting, whatever. It means a lot, and I'm so grateful that we can have these conversations. I'm thankful for it, so thank you guys so much. And as always, guys, Jesus Christ is King of Kings, Lord of Lords, America first, always. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you later.